Hey, everybody, Lieutenant Joe here for the Blue Heart webcast. Now, we're trying something new, so I want to let you know a couple of things. First of all, you say, Lieutenant Joe, you're not in the studio, the Blue Heart webcast studio. We're not. We're moving some things around, so this is my business office. Looks a little cluttered because there's 95,000 things going on here right now. But our new platform here is going to have more information. It's much more user-friendly, and hopefully it's going to help me to make better shows so you enjoy yourself, because as we do the videos, that's important. Okay, so today, when I look around, who do I want to talk to? Who do I think you would find interesting in the world of law enforcement to enjoy yourself as you're on patrol, or if you're at home, or whatever it is you're doing, listen to the Blue Heart webcast. And I have retired officer Martin Katz here with me. Now, I know Martin from Facebook. We met each other a while ago. And I saw that, he's an author, writes novels, he writes all kinds of information. I find him a very interesting guy with his posts and everything. So I asked him to come on and introduce you to him, and I'm going to find out all about his career and the books and everything he writes. So let's see. Marty, welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you for the invite. Glad to be here.
So like I said, I'm looking at all the books, and I want to get into all that. But I think we tell everybody first, who are you? Your background in law enforcement, and I'll ask you a couple of probing questions once we get going. But, where did you start and when?
Right. I started at age 21 in Livingston, New Jersey as a patrol officer, and I rose up to be a field training officer. And I felt kind of restricted that it was a smaller department. I thought there was bigger fish out there. So I had this idea to go to Florida. So I ended up in Broward County, Florida, which is actually Fort Lauderdale area. I went to the Broward Sheriff's Office, and they were not hiring at the time, although they have 6,000 people. So I went to a city called Coral Springs, which is kind of like Livingston, New Jersey, only a little bigger. I was there for a couple of years, and then I ended up going to the Broward Sheriff's Office right in the height of the 1980s with the drug wars, the cocaine cowboys. And due to my background, I was able to kind of move quickly, work in narcotics, SWAT. I had a great career. I wrote a recipe on how you could do a career like this by just saying yes to every assignment. And I was there, and I retired in 2007.
Outstanding. So what kind of jobs did you do in law enforcement?
Well, I've always been a field training officer. I went and became a high liability instructor with all the 4 high liabilities, and also as a sidebar, I became the assistant director for the International Association of Police Ethics Instructors for Florida. I was a detective a couple of times. I had the opportunity to work as a detective in the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, where I invented a language sheet that helped with solving crimes. From there, I was a supervisor at Port Everglades, which is the second largest seaport, where I brought in the Navy ships. During the Gulf War, I brought in the Kennedy aircraft carrier, and I got really tight with a lot of the military coming in. From there, I was assigned to the training division, and I ended up being one of the supervisors at the police academy. I worked on narcotics in the 80s. I worked SWAT in the 80s. And then when I finally moved up the supervisory chain, I was supervisor in charge of recruiting, going all over the country, including after 9/11. I was in New York City in December at John J. Collins of Criminal Justice, getting people. I was in charge of detective bureaus, street crimes unit, and eventually ended up being the senior supervisor on a midnight shift in the largest district of the sheriff's office.
That's outstanding. Quite a career. You've done a lot of different things, so that really gives you a real breadth of experience. And I know the Broward Sheriff's Office is, a highly rated police agency. In the 1980s, when I was a kid, growing up, I was watching Miami Vice, and to me, that whole Florida drug scene just seemed like that was one of the reasons I want to get in. I want to go, crush drug dealers in Miami in speedboats and look cool doing it.
Well, our major, Nick Navarro, who became sheriff, was a technical advisor for the movie Scarface. Also, the TV show Cops started with us, and it started with my narcotics unit. The first show was at the airport with a narcotics unit. So, yeah, we were kind of like living the Miami Vice thing at the time. It was so surrealistic to see what was going on the TV, yet we were doing the same thing. It was really cool.
Right. Well, does art imitate life or light imitate art? Obviously they got a lot of that idea of the Broward County area, what was going on. Very, very interesting. I look back and you said you were in Coral Springs for a while. The first thing that pops to my mind is Coral Springs is when they had the shooting at Parkland. I think it was Coral Springs officers that actually went in the building. They went running in there.
Yeah, I knew a lot of the officers in the Parkland district because of my training. I worked in train division, and yeah, it was Coral Springs that actually took the lead on that.
Yeah, and it turns out they were having some trouble trying to decide. The officer there was having problems, but Coral Springs went right in there and did the right thing. So let me ask you this then: with this breadth of knowledge that you have, starting out in Livingston, PA, there's a lot of officers across this country that are not in the Broward County Sheriff's, not in NYPD, they're not in LAPD, they're in smaller agencies. And, what did you find as an officer in a smaller, now I get it, you want to be in that big agency because you have more opportunity, there's more going on. But what did you think about being a smaller agency officer to start? I think those cops are just as talented and just as valuable men and women to law enforcement as the big agencies. They just don't get to do as much as you do maybe in the city. What do you think?
Well, number one, I thought they were probably more qualified because they did more things themselves without having to call in specialized units. I remember guys that we were talking about hostage people. There's no SWAT team back then. It was the good guys that could do it.
Right.
It was a more mature police officer, usually stayed with the department a longer time. And they were great training officers. The only problem I saw was there wasn't a lot of schooling back then. I think if I was in that department today, there would be more schooling and more advancement. It just was in the 1970s, the beginning of 1970s, there just wasn't much opportunity at that time. The guys were good. The very, very strict super bosses. I learned a lot. And later on, when I became a boss, I relied a lot on what I was learned then. But it just didn't have at that time in history the opportunities I was looking for. And now I went back there in 2012 for 9 months as a training specialist. And I saw a big difference on how it has grown since then. I was very pleased at the progress made.
That's awesome. Well, you see my banner running across here, pangarotraining.com. I've been training officers since 2005 in my agency. Then I put out my own shingle and I do all kinds of investigative training, and we have people that do administrative things, and training has become, finally, you're right, it was not that big back in the day, but now it's really, hopefully people understand you have to train these officers. The men and women have got to be as trained as they can possibly be to handle the things that go on out there. I know recently, what were we talking about? We're going to with big agencies, small agencies. I've met officers from across the country because we do things remotely. People can pick up a class that we have and jump on remotely. And I got cops from across the country coming in. It's really very interesting to talk to them. There are some officers that are like, hey, I'm in a small town and I love being in the small town. I know everybody. I know my community. And then there are people that say, hey, I want to jump up and go to NYPD and I want, that anonymity of a giant place. So my point being is to everybody out there, no matter where you work, you have value to law enforcement. Make the best of it. Learn everything you can and do the right thing. So amazing when I talk to somebody like you that's moved around and has gone to different places. I was in my PD in 1985. When I came in, we were still watching these black and white videos from the 1970s. Officer John stops a car, and it was like you looked at it and you go, you had no connection to that world whatsoever, other than I'll never forget the one where there was a FTO driving around. He lets the rookie drive. He falls asleep and the rookie stops a car and there's a gunfight. And the FTO wakes up in a gunfight and the rookie's on the ground. And it was like, holy moly. That was scary as hell because, what would you have done,
That's right out of Officer Down Code 3 by Pierce R. Brooks. Which is the Bible, about the guy's resting. Suddenly he wakes up and hears a gunshot. He doesn't know where he is to call for help. So I found a long time ago to become self-motivated. When seconds count, help is just minutes away. So you have to be the person you're it until help gets there. Sometimes, I mean, when I first got in the sheriff's office, I worked out in Everglades. I don't know if I couldn't even find a backup if I had to. So the training I had in Livingston, where you kind of worked on your own a lot, really helped me. So all training is good.
Yep, I think that's amazing.
What you do with it.
And one of the things that helps us, having this platform, we also do an audio version of this, and that's on Spreaker, and there's, we're on iHeartRadio, all over the place. But trying to get some of the programs I have are about training, to bring some training stuff out. So we should talk about that in the future. If there's a little vignette or something we can talk about.
Well, I know the one thing I found to be great was in 1983, I met Jim Lindell, which is Lindell Handgun Retention Method. No one was teaching it. I started teaching that everywhere. I made it the thing to teach. And it's not like you can't do techniques if you're a policeman where you go to the ground. You can't fall to the ground and try to do a Brazilian jiu-jitsu hold on someone when there's a crowd around you and more people. So Lindell was the perfect way of defending your handgun. And it just took off. And that became like one of my signature classes. And to this day, I still teach it everywhere. It's just awesome. You take something and you go with it. You run with it and make it into something that is good for everyone.
And I think there's a great point, because we do have newer officers watching, and we have, senior officers out there. As a new officer, one of the things, you become very aware of the fact that you're carrying a gun. If you've never done that before, so you got a gun everywhere you go. There's a gun, all duty, on duty, you got a gun. And then eventually it becomes kind of commonplace. And you get used to always having a gun. You don't even think about it when you're carrying a gun. So making sure that, you're safe, that in the beginning, you don't think about these kind of things, wrestling around with somebody, having them pull your gun. I wrestled with a guy once that was bigger than me, stronger than me, when I was about a 3-year cop. And, I had no choice. It was in a chase. We jumped out. He jumped over a fence. I'm running through the town next door, which I didn't know. It was pitch black. And I'm chasing this guy, and about our third fence that we went over, because, back there I was a young buck then at 23 years old. I could jump over the fence and keep going. This guy got to fence number 4, and he stopped because he was winded, and he turned around, and it was me and him at each side of the yard. And, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go lock him up. So I ran at him. He ran at me, but he was bigger than me. He was stronger than me. And we're wrestling around, and this guy starts choking me, and I'm laying on the ground thinking I'm going to die, because I'm in the backyard. I don't even know where I am. I hear the sirens coming, but I didn't know where I was. Where are you? I'm on foot, and I'm chasing this guy. Now I'm fighting for my life. And I remember as he reached over, as I'm starting to see the little stars floating around, I'm thinking I'm going to die. I could feel him tugging at my handgun. Yep. And we had one of the retention holsters, which we had just gotten recently. And he couldn't get the handgun out. But that's the thing that kicked me from giving up to high gear, when I said, oh my God, he's really going to kill me now. And I thought about my wife and my kid at home in bed. It was a midnight shift. They're home sleeping, and I'm going to die in the backyard here. And I started to fight like an animal, and I got him enough to get him off of me. And it's funny. Everybody says, oh, what'd you do? Did you jump on him? No, you wrestle with somebody for 6-7 minutes after chasing them. You're wiped out. Yes. He got off of me. I hit him. I punched him in the throat. I had him in the eyes. He rolled off, and I'm laying there just trying to breathe. And he's laying there trying to breathe. And finally, I crawled on top of him, and the troops came through the backyard and took him out. But that gun retention, very, very important.
Well, you're right.
That's an important thing.
Because every confrontation, always there's at least one gun, maybe 2 if you have a backup gun present.
Yep.
The thing that made me a little different is at age 7, I started Japanese martial arts. And by combining that, also having the first karate school in Livingston helped when I became a policeman, because I come on the scene, people didn't want to do anything because they knew me because I was teaching. But I've combined those 2 throughout my career, joined together all the way. And what it does is give you the confidence that, one, you don't have to go to the gun. You don't have to go to the nunchaku I carried or the nightstick or the pepper spray, but it's there. I don't hesitate to use those weapons. But it also opened the door for later on, when I retired, to become a use of force expert for the PBA and FOP to do that. So my advice in this whole conversation we're having right now is take advantage of what you're doing on the job now, wherever you are, because that could be multiplied when you leave, that you don't just become a doorstop when you retire?
Well, I'm going to say 100%. I'm on my fourth career now after leaving law enforcement. I'm a security consultant. I do threat assessments. I do police training. It never ends. You get the training on the job. They give you a lot of great training. And how do you move it over? I was an FBI hostage crisis negotiator.
Awesome.
Well, I've turned that into programs for schools and businesses. Crisis in the classroom, de-escalation.
Yes.
Crisis in the workplace, de-escalation, right? So absolutely important. All right, so let's take a look at your books now, because a lot of cops like to read, and it's funny. One of the things I started doing video training and writing myself, because I found that ever since there's been radio and TV going back into the early 1900s, there's been cop shows because people are intrigued by law enforcement. It couldn't be any more clear. Good guys versus bad guys, and high drama and life and death, and all of this stuff. It's very, very exciting, and it never ends. Think about the TV shows, endless TV shows about cops, and radio programs before there was TV, books about cops, all movies. So I find this to be amazing. Now you've got 4 books out that's done. So I want everyone to pay attention. But I'm going to indulge myself 1 minute. We have sponsors here, all right? We have sponsors I have to mention. So blue360media.com, they're my publisher. They publish my books. You can go find them. They have training materials and all of my books. Amazing. Blue360 Media. Medicalessentialdiagnostics.com. In New Jersey, if you're any state, local government worker, you go to them for a health screening at no cost to yourself. Find out there's something wrong, get it fixed, or find out you're okay and collect that pension forever. And then there's a company called Riot Tint. They make clear and other kinds, not just clear, but they make the window film for doors and windows that keep bad guys and bad girls out when they want to come in and hurt people. So it's amazing. RiotTint.com. Go take a look at all their stuff. So thank you for indulging. I usually do that at the beginning, but I was excited to have you here, so I thought about it.
Okay.
All right. So tell me about, what was your first book? We'll try and do a couple of minutes on each one, because I know you got 4 of them. So
the first book is, can I show the book?
Sure, absolutely. Hold it up. Pass the uniform. Outstanding.
Basically what that is, it's those stories you talk about. What it is, I'm an FTO, and I'm going to educate and train the recruit in the car with me. He tells me, well, I had this happen. I go, well, let me tell you a story about that. So I go into the stories about it, where it comes out. A lot of times it was my error. You learn by your mistakes. My car crashes, or an arrest that went crazy, or a juvenile that could bench press a Buick and you got to fight him. So these are those stories. One where we arrested a Colombian. We arrested an African American with Colombian drugs with a Smith & Wesson American gun. He got a Cuban lawyer. It's just the fun things that we always talk about, that the people always want. Tell me another story. Tell me another story. Yeah. Well, these are those stories. And the last story is pretty cool, because I stopped to help an officer on the way. We had take-home cars. So I'm riding home after work, and I stopped to help this officer. I looked at him, and he looked like me 20 years ago. Everything was like he was in shape. He looked professional. And he said, "Thank you, sir." I remember, when did I become a sir? Right. So the whole book is like those kind of stories. That was the book I wrote first. That went out in 2007. It went out.
Still available?
Oh yeah, they're all available on Amazon.
Amazon. So you go to Amazon, everybody, and you get these books. You'll be better at what you do. Always learn. There's a guy out there. He's a life coach, and he says a lot of things. But one thing he says: read 10 pages a day, and you'll be a better person. Right? Always read 10 pages. 10 pages, no matter what it is. Read Marty's book. Read the Bible. Read the newspaper. 10 pages a day. You'll be smarter, and you'll be better off. That's Pass the Uniform. Now, we have a feature that we do here on the show. We call it Tales from the Road, where I get people on and they come up with 1 or 2 of their craziest, scariest, saddest, whatever cop stories, because people do love them. So that's important. So go get it. You'll learn some things. What's your next book?
Next book is this one, Hot Potato.
Hot Potato.
Yes. That was an idea. I was working in Port Everglades during the first Gulf War, and we shut the port down, and I was working, I think, 90 hours a week. The overtime was phenomenal. I ran the day shift, the evening shift, and slept in the firehouse at the night shift. It was unbelievable. But I had this idea because I was watching ships coming in. So I figured this ship comes in from Russia and a cop goes on board for an illness call. And turns out that the ship is part of a huge plot that no one knew about. And because the cop is on there, they decide to take off with the cop on board. It becomes a hostage at sea. Meanwhile, there's a backstory of what's going on. And it turns out that there's a plot with 40 other ships to blow up the country. And
wow.
I researched it out. And ends up with a SEAL team rescuing him at sea. And the bad guy gets away at the end, which leads to a sequel I just done. So it just
and what's that one called? What's the sequel?
The sequel is Blind Revenge. It says a Mark Schaefer thriller because Mark Schaefer's the cop. What happens is the bad guy who got away plots to kidnap Schaefer when he's doing after a TV show about his first adventure that happened 3 months before. He's kidnapped to Russia, and then Delta Force gets him out there, and it just goes on and on. It's just, I'm overwhelmed, seriously overwhelmed at the reviews. I never ever imagined this in the all 5 stars, people saying movies. I don't know what to do with it. It's just
that's great, and
it just blew me away.
As a writer, when you have a story to tell, and you tell it well, and people read it and they say, "That was awesome. I was there. I enjoyed it. I was so excited." That's the key. So that's cool that you had a sequel.
Clancy. I mean, they think it's Tom Clancy. It's not. I'm just some guy who happened to write some ideas down, and
right.
It just blew me away.
So I'm going to tell everybody now, not only do you got to go get Marty's books, because it sounds like a movie, sounds like Bruce Willis, or it sounds like, one of these guys starring in it. I look at that and I go, you too can do this. You're going to go through so many things in law enforcement, so many, you're going to connect to human beings at their good and their bad in ways you're never going to imagine. Anybody's got some time on, you start to see, holy moly, you can't believe the world. My first column that I wrote when I started writing columns, that's how I got started for a local newspaper. I wrote a thing called Behind the Badge. And it was not written for cops. It was written for the citizens to understand what it was like for the cops. So I wrote about going to a robbery call, working on Christmas Eve. I talked about what it was like to have to go to a dead body, what it was like to be in a fight for your life. And people just found it really interesting, and it helped me to develop my chops. But you're going to see a million things. You too can be a great writer. All right.
So before we go on, the thing that got me really excited was when I was approached by Police One website to write a column for them. And that got out my views on policing, which opened the door for people read that. There's like 300,000 subscribers to Police One. That was just the best thing because I was interacting with my field, and it was so good. We give and take. Dave Smith, who was Buck Savage, all those things, going to all the seminars with all the different trainers. It just was great. And that just spurred on the books.
Yes. And it is exciting. And, I write, everybody that's listened, I write for Blue 360 Media, and I write training books, right? And I'm trying to expand into how to tell a story to do the teaching, but I'm doing creative writing as well. And police stories are natural, but I also write plays. I write all kinds of stuff. But when you think about it, I get so involved in the story that it's like actually being in the event. So the one that I'm almost done with, and you and I are going to have to talk about, I have something published on Amazon, but I need to do it better. You got a whole bunch going on there. This story is called The Taking. All right. And it's about a group of terrorists that decide how are they going to get us. And in the middle of Pennsylvania, they take 3 school buses of kids on the way to a trip to Hershey Park. And who happens to be on the road but a retired lieutenant going to pick up tile for his wife, and he rolls into the taking as they're actually taking down the buses. And it's his story of him trying to follow them, call the local police, what happens to them, and he ends up dealing with these terrorists. It's really very exciting, but I sit there and it's feverish because you're in the middle of it and it's exciting. So we're gonna have to talk offline and
Sure.
you give me some advice on getting those kind of books going.
Okay.
So now we got Past the Uniform, we got Hot Potato, we got the follow-up, which is, what was that again?
It's called Blind Revenge.
Blind Revenge. Okay, and what else you got? What's number 4?
All right. This is the 4th one. This was a fun book. This is called From Another Dimension. I'm a big fan of the old Twilight Zone. I love the old Twilight Zone. So these are short stories. You can read one at a time. They're really quick to read. It's a modern version, quantum physics, Twilight Zone with the kind of weird twist that the Twilight Zone had. I'm amazed that maybe because I was just writing, it came out, but it's really a cool little book.
That sounds excellent, man. Another Dimension. Excellent. So I'm going to tell you, everybody out there, if you want to read, you want to support a brother officer, go on there and get these books. I mean, just from what we've heard right here with these 4 books, any one of them sounds like they'd be awesome. But I think I would go get them all and enjoy yourself reading and you're listening to Marty. Marty, how can people find you if anybody in the audience wants to find, and I'll put all these links in the show description, but how can they go find you? I want to go find Marty Katz, his books. Where did it get you?
Well, basically the books are on Amazon. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I haven't got the website up yet because we're just, branching out a little bit more. I didn't have much to put on there. I don't really teach a lot. I had a company called Crime Wave Solutions where I taught officer survival mindset, becoming a 15th century samurai in the 21st century world, kind of combining everything together that I've done with all the classes over the years. And now I just do every now and then. But the best way is either Facebook, LinkedIn, or go to Amazon and, or you go to Police One website and there's a link on there to emails.
That's outstanding. All right. So Marty Katz, Katz. Go and take a look, listen to the books. Marty, it's been great having you here. You got to tell me you'll definitely come back again because we haven't even scratched the surface of what you have to say here. So sure. I'd like to get you on the panel and do all that kind of stuff. All right, everybody, remember, go support sponsors, like and follow the channel, right? Tell your friends about it. This is how we support each other. If you find us on YouTube, that's where, obviously that's where you're probably watching now, but it's YouTube and other places. Blue360media.com. Get my books, get everything else you need. They have training now on Blue360 Media. RiotTint.com. Help your schools and every other place be safe and secure. And MedicalEssentialDiagnostics.com. If you're in New Jersey, find out if there's something wrong, get yourself cured so you can enjoy that pension and beat it up. Marty, thank you very much for being here. And we'll see everybody down the road.